And we should be live. Zach, take it away.
Okay, I guess that we are live, and I'm going to pretend that my Twitch audio isn't blaring in my own ears, so I'm not dealing with a bunch of feedback. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to SDGC Live. Resident Game Dads John and Derek are out this week, which means the kids are running the show. It is just the 6 of us tonight. It is a small group, but I want to throw it first to our resident host in the Great White North, Jeff. Say what's up, buddy.
How's it going?
Reb?
Hi, good evening.
Finn?
Hello.
Maddie?
Hi.
And Big Bustin himself?
Hi everyone. My name's Justin. So
Come on, you guys, the dads are gone. Why are we not more
I'm trying
excited
to
right
raise
now?
us up.
okay, I'm sorry I'm not busting enough tonight.
Thank you.
I apologize.
Chat
Thank you.
says there's no sound.
Good.
That's sweet.
Yes.
Although people are responding to things that we're saying, as well as other people saying no sound.
Hang on, let me see.
So,
Oh,
mixed messages there.
who
Can
knows?
someone
Chat,
who
do we have
isn't
sound?
John tell
I
us
hear
if we
myself.
have sound? John,
I hear myself.
unmute the stream, John. I bet you have it muted because you usually have it muted.
It's probably
Okay,
John.
everybody else has sound. John just doesn't. have
John, we have disabled your sound for the evening.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Dad.
When
start.
he's not running the stream, he's causing
Dad,
technical issues.
please
Sound is back. Yeah, good
stop
cover.
embarrassing us in the chat, Dad.
All right, we're bringing it back around. Listen,
So, Justin, you could kick John from the chat now.
John's
I
banned.
I told you! He had it muted, I told you!
Oh, God.
Welcome.
Is it done?
Guys, I can't ban him from the chat because he's posting from the official account.
Oh,
So
Is it
can't
we'll be
ban
banning the
yourself.
podcast from our own chat.
Is it time? Forget all our topics tonight. Is it time we talk about putting John in a home? Is he ready? Can we afford
Yes.
it? That's our
He's
new
had some-
Patreon.
we definitely cannot afford it. But
I
he
mean,
does.
Our new
love the guy.
Patreon is.
I
Our
love
new
the guy
Patreon
that
is just-
every Thanksgiving he shows up with his bad video game opinions, and I just,
Right. By the way, is now a good time to talk about how bad Final Fantasy is?
Let's let's specifically
worst.
talk about 15.
yeah,
15 is a
And how,
disaster.
not only, I think the great thing about 15 is that it automatically ranks itself in a top 15 list.
Yeah. True.
So
By the way, you know what's a good game? Witcher 3. I like
combat.
Witcher 3 a lot.
And the combat in
Yeah.
Witcher 3 is
Yeah,
pinnacle.
like girl like dances around and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
you know what?
beautiful.
I can't wait because I want someone to clip this moment where everyone on the podcast agrees the official SDGC position is Witcher 3 combat is great.
it's good.
I
So-
haven't played it, but I assume it's great.
Hey,
it just
yeah.
it must be.
Yeah, it has to be.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's no way it's
You're correct. You're correct in your assumption, Reb.
Listen, we should probably pretend we have topics tonight. So
We have a
What's
lot.
everybody been playing? Have we besides Metro? What have people been playing? Finn, have you been doing anything? What games have you been up to, buddy?
I have been streaming Kingdom Hearts 3 live on the SDGC channel every
Yeah.
chance I get.
Yeah. It's and are you almost done or did you finish it? I feel like
I
you were
don't
close,
know.
right?
I don't know. I just finished Pirates of the Caribbean World.
Okay.
I don't know what's next. A whole bunch of bullshit Kingdom Hearts plot stuff.
Cool.
Because for those unaware, the whole twist is I have not played Kingdom Hearts since 2006's Kingdom Hearts 2. So the entirety of the plot is
Oh,
and
that
it's
must
been
be so interesting.
it's been
Just-
amazing to try and parse it together. And good friend Kogasu has been with me every single stream, and we have been debating and trying to figure out the plot together, and it's been a delight.
Finn, do you love that?
And you can
every
also
scene-
watch. You can also watch those on our YouTube as well.
Yeah, they're
That's correct.
archived.
I have been
They're
exporting
archived
them.
on Twitch and they're on YouTube. So if you want to check those out, go right ahead.
All right. So sorry, Maddie, what were you asking me?
Do you love that every scene with Organization 13 members is just them showing up, kind of talking a little shit at Sora, and then
And
he's
then
like,
pooping
"I'm
away?
gonna defeat you," and then they just disappear,
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah, my favorite is trying to remember anyone's name.
My favorite
Oh,
thing
no.
about Kingdom
Throw that
Hearts
in there.
is anytime I see someone tweet just a bunch of words that make no sense,
Yeah.
I can always tell that they're just talking about Kingdom Hearts.
Especially if the ratio of X to
Yeah.
every other letter
Yeah.
is like
Yeah.
absurdly
It's like what
high
Mortal
for some reason.
Kombat does with the K, but with an X.
Yeah.
Real talk. I have debated turning it into an on-stream drinking game that anytime we find out someone else is living inside Sora's heart, I have to take a shot. But I think we're up to like 17 people now, so
Oh
who
my
even
God.
knows? I don't even know.
That's kind of funny that like I used to kind of think of that as not really a drinking game, but sort of like keeping a head count of how many anthems there were
Oh my
going through the
God.
series. And so now we're up to how many people are in Sora's Heart. That's great.
Playing
is there an
Kingdom
anthem in
Hearts
Sora's
is
Heart?
like
Please
making
tell
me
me.
feel like I am always on the verge of an aneurysm. And I don't know.
Put that quote on the box.
But
Um,
it's been a
so-
delight.
So listen, this is a spicy. We need to back off Kingdom Hearts because there are some. I feel bad. I don't want to dunk. I don't want to dunk. Reb,
No,
you've
the
been
game
thinking
is
about
fun as
painting,
hell.
right?
I'm having a great time. It's
Okay,
just half the
okay.
fun is figuring out just what is going on.
Reb, please talk to me about this game about painting. Have you
Yeah.
been playing that?
So
What's
there've
the
been a
game?
bunch of there have been like a ton of AAA like shooters and stuff coming out, and I'm playing 0 of them. I'm playing
Okay.
East Shade. It's a game made by a solo developer. I feel really bad. I don't remember. Well, he tried to make it by himself, and then he couldn't. There's like a whole article up on the website gamesindustry.biz that you could read if you felt like it. But it's a game. It's called East Shade, and it's a game where you are a traveling painter, and you go to the land of East Shade because it was a place that your mother loved, and she was always telling you as you were growing up, you would love it. You could find so many things to paint. There's a little prologue or whatever that tells you this, and you show up in East Shade, and it's beautiful. Like you wander around and you can paint things, and the painting mechanic is basically just like a glorified screenshot taking. It's not that interesting, but that's not really the point. Like the point is just it sounds so boring to explain, but it's really just the way the world is designed is really lovely. It's a game about a place. It's about East Shade, and you can talk to people. Like there are people who will have quests for you, and you can kind of do them. They usually involve like finding a specific like piece of scenery or whatever and painting it, or talking to a certain person and kind of figuring out what sort of painting they might want to see in order to like fulfill their feelings or whatever.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I really like is that it's a very short game, but it's also extremely open-ended. Like you can pretty much like there's a few gates, but you can pretty much ignore all the quests and just wander around and paint things. Like you don't have to really do anything anyone says. And sometimes it's not super direct in a really nice way. Like one of the very first quests in the game, well, it's not even a quest. Like there's a woman who's real, and I won't go in too deep about it, but there's a woman who's really upset about something. Like she's grieving, like deep, powerful grief, and she doesn't like want anything from you. She wants you to leave her alone. Like there's no quest involved. Nothing pops up in your quest log for this. You try to talk to her about this. She's like, no, I don't want to talk about that. Who are you? Like I don't want to tell you my problems. Go away. And you can just like move on with your life and ignore her, or you can go paint some like there like if you can kind of like deductively figure out what she wants to see, you can go paint the thing that is upsetting her and bring it to her and show her. And it doesn't get, there's no reward for it, but she'll notice that you have this, and she'll kind of pause and she'll be like, I see you understand what I'm going through. Thank you for showing me this. You keep it, like I don't want it, but thank
really
you
nice.
for showing me this. Like she just has this nice response, and there's no reward. Like there's no benefit to doing this, but you just can.
I feel like you're leaving out a really crucial thing from a screenshot of yours I saw, which is that there are animal people.
Oh yeah, like everybody's an animal. I mean, I don't know if you are. It's not, you don't see yourself. It's not really explored, but there's like kind of gazelle people, monkey people, bear people, and
So Animal Crossing.
I really like the
There's,
the
like, one
owl
more.
man screenshot that
oh
you
yeah,
posted.
the owl. I love the owl. He's just sitting under a tree, and he's like, "I like books. Do you like books?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I like books." And he's like, "I like drinking tea while I read books." And I'm like, "You're my kind of guy." He's great. It's really wholesome and sweet. There's also moments that are really sad. There's a scenario very early on in the game that you can't progress without fucking up people's lives, and you don't need to progress it for any reason. You can leave it alone entirely. and there's no detriment to you. But if you keep pushing, like you would in like a normal game, like in a normal game, you keep pushing dialogue options, right? Because you assume that by continuing to press like whatever option, eventually you'll finish the quest and get the reward. But in this one, if you keep pushing it, like the guy tells you, "Leave me alone, get out, I don't want this," but you keep pushing it, and eventually it has a really sucky conclusion, and it's sad. And it's just, but it's like it's cool that it's so upsetting because the outcome feels real. Like,
right.
You fucked this up. Why did you keep talking to him? Why did you do this?
And like the end result isn't like a video game where like you just get a repeating dialogue sentence over and over again where you're like, oh, okay, this is over. Like it's cool that they found a way to kind of make something more resolute out of that, right?
This sounds really cool. What platforms is it on?
Yeah.
Just PC on Steam.
Just PC right now.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, I wish we would get... I mean, I know we have some games like Edith Finch and stuff like that, but we've come so far with game tech, and all of them are still basically shooting someone or hitting... Like, it's all very confrontation-focused and, like, solving up... Like, it's really cool to just put you in a space and give you different kinds of objectives and different ways to interact with the world, and especially to do that in, like, a more open-world setting. Like, most of the games that do that are very linear and focused and... story driven, so I would love to see more stuff like that because it's super interesting.
Yeah, the focus is definitely on the location. He said in the interview I was mentioning earlier that he made the East Shade first, like the location, that was the focus, and then while he was working on making this game about a location, at one point it came up, oh, we need a mechanic, like we need something to do here, and so that's where the painting came in.
So Jeff, you kind of spoke up there. Have you just been playing Apex Legends, or what else have you been dipping your toes in, buddy?
Actually, I tried to just go right into Metro Exodus, and I just had nothing but problems. So I was like, okay, I'll wait for a patch, and it got me to go back and play Metro 2033 in Last Light. So I finished Metro 2033, and just getting my feet wet in Last Light, and they're flawed games in a lot of ways. They're kind of buggy and glitchy, but they still look damn good. And I think I've talked before, like I have different things I look for in games. I like either narrative or gameplay or atmosphere, and like when you have all three, it's really good. The story in the Metro games is like, I don't think any of the characterizations are all that interesting, but the atmosphere is like almost unparalleled. And it's totally up my alley. So I'm really glad I played 2033, and Last Light already is a massive improvement in terms of how it feels to play and the presentation. And I'm excited to get through it and play Exodus because you guys are all probably going to talk about that right after I'm done here.
Yeah, definitely. I know I have played and finished Exodus. Justin, you've done the same. Maddie, are you still just getting your feet wet still?
It sounds like I'm getting near the end. I just finished the River Valley section.
Okay,
I hopped on the train. I haven't done that train section yet, but I'm on my way to it.
Yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised with how great the game has been. I've always liked these games. Like I had the really mediocre Xbox 360 port back when the original release happened, and I've kind of been a fan of the Metro series since then. But this feels like a huge step up. In a way I wasn't really expecting. The Euro jank is there, but it's a much improved experience for me. But I am sorry you've had PC bugs. That's kind of a drag.
Yeah.
Justin, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say they released a hotfix today that fixed, I think, most of them.
Word.
So
Okay.
That's pretty impressive. Just 5 or 6 days
cool.
after. So.
Yeah. Justin,
so
do you have any...
I've mostly just been mainlining Metro. I just finished it last night. I am going to be writing up a full review. Hopefully sometime in the next couple days. I've been extremely busy with work, so I have not been able to get that started, but I will have a full written review up on our Medium page in a couple days, which I'm really excited about because I have a lot to say about that game. I think it's really cool. Spoiler alert, it's gonna be a pretty positive review. I liked the game a lot, but I'm really looking forward to being able to kind of unpack a lot of the little things about it.
I really hope you take some time to talk about the ways that you can communicate in that world and the ways you can't, because I think that was like a huge crux of my experience.
I definitely go in.
Satisfied. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And Maddie, have you been mostly warm on it, or you've had some
Oh,
issues
yeah.
with it?
I've been
Okay.
super positive on it. I played last light. I think it was like last week, 2 weeks ago. I finished it.
Okay.
And I love 2033. I did not have as great of a time with last light just because it's like it's really janky and it feels like it was made in the 7th gen, which it was, but like it has that feeling of just like linear
Yeah.
shooter that doesn't really care about much other than shooting. And like 2033 had an issue where stealth was terrible. Like you could not stealth really. Like if you got caught, you were screwed. And last light, they like corrected the complete opposite way where like stealth is super overpowered. And Exodus feels like the perfect middle ground where like you can do those, it feels like playing an E3 demo sometimes where like guards will have their routes pathed like just right so that you can sneak around really nice. And then if you get into a firefight, like it doesn't feel like a kind of messy firefight. Like everything feels very slow and deliberately paced, and like you can like take your time and do things. I don't know, like
it's really cool. Like,
yeah, it doesn't feel messy. Like,
well, and one of the cool things too is like also like different factions like have like personalities that are kind of like
mhm.
for the factions, and like sometimes like when you're sneaking around and like taking guys out, and then you get spotted, like there are some groups that'll panic and just surrender right away, and then there's some that will go hard in fighting you, some that'll be down to like the last couple guys before they surrender. It's really really neat.
And
Like there's a whole lot of personality in the game that's like told through how you approach like combat in various situations, on top like aside from just like exposition dumps and stuff that I really like.
Right, and I think one of the things that I have found compelling, staying out of spoiler territory, but one thing I found really compelling about Exodus compared to previous Metro games is that in previous Metro games they always had almost caricature like depictions of the communist and Nazi factions, and in some ways I am fine with having caricature Nazis that just feel good to kill. But like in this game, it feels like they've actually fleshed out and thought about how would these factions work with each other, and then how would they kind of impact the world around them, and in what ways, in a way that makes for a really lived-in space that kind of was missing in previous iterations for me, at least. I don't know if that was the same experience for you guys, but
and I think the wider level design, it reminds me of in Uncharted Lost Legacy, the like kind of wide linear level design where like you're on a guided path. It's not GTA or something, but like you can take your time in these spaces. And like I think one of the issues the first two had was that like it gave you this space that you wanted to take in, but like there wasn't much reason to stop and take it in because you're literally in tunnels like being funneled towards your objective. And Exodus has given me a lot of chances to like just stop and like take in the world and kind of understand it more.
Justin, hello. Justin is frozen on me. Justin is frozen, so we're gonna move on while we wait for him to come
He has
back.
such a pensive look.
Yeah.
He does.
He's thinking really hard about this.
He looks very stern here. So like let's move forward. Reb, one thing that I think is worth talking about, especially because it's breaking news and it's kind of a trend in the last month, sadly. Can you talk about the rumors around ArenaNet's layoffs and kind of that context within the greater industry right now?
Yeah, not rumors anymore. They got confirmed in like the last hour. Earlier today, our good story breaker friend Jason Schreier over at Kotaku dropped that ArenaNet was reportedly going to go through a whole bunch of layoffs. Apparently, NCSoft is their parent company. It's the Korean developer publisher. Had decided that ArenaNet, which does Guild Wars 2 right now, was not pulling its weight. Basically, they apparently have a whole bunch of other projects that are like unannounced, unfinished, in the works, and they're not getting done. They're getting canceled. Like their status is really unclear, but basically they're I think they haven't been bringing in as much money in the last several years, and they need to trim it down. And so they said that, so the CEO, Song Yoon, she said, our live game business revenue is declining as our franchises age. Delays in development on PC and mobile have created further drains against our revenue projects. And while our operating costs in the West have increased, it's not sustainable. Basically, so it's not sustainable. And so there's going to be cuts across the board at ArenaNet. There's about 400 people that work there total. No specification as to how many we're going to get laid off. But ArenaNet did confirm about an hour later that there are indeed going to be layoffs over the next couple days. We're not sure what departments or how many or who or anything else. But yeah, I mean, it sucks.
Fucking sucks.
And this is a week after Activision Blizzard, which we didn't get to talk about. We won't be able to get to talk about in depth this week, but I mean, we all know what happened last week because we didn't have a show last week. Activision Blizzard laid off what did it end up being, like 8% of their staff, 800 people?
8% of their workforce after reporting, what was it, like $2.4 billion in revenue?
Yeah, like a record high revenue.
It was the record high. Yep.
It just absurd. And so, the industry now is going to have just this massive influx of jobless people with incredible talent, and probably not a lot of places for them to go because this industry just chews people up and spits people out.
Yeah. And obviously they're both horrible in the terms of like job loss, right? But is there a similar, in terms of like when you look at the way Activision is structured, Bobby Kotick made, I think, $28 million last year and $33 million the year before that, which is just ridiculously gross, especially in the context of laying off 800 employees. Is there a similar structure at Guild Wars 2? Imran has mentioned in the chat that they haven't released anything new since 2017, and they don't charge a subscription fee, which is why there's no revenue coming in. Which just means they have a really user-friendly facing business model, but obviously that hurts.
Right. So the model is, as I understand it, around Guild Wars 2. I've played a little bit of Guild Wars 2. I've actually talked to people from ArenaNet quite a bit in the last year, weirdly. But my understanding of how Guild Wars 2 works is they do a new expansion every other year. So they did an expansion in 2017, they did one in 2015, and then in the years between, they do like small story upgrades throughout the year for their users. So it doesn't generate any more money because the game is you pay once, you get the thing, and then there's a new expansion, you pay for the expansion, and you have the thing. Like, it's not a monthly subscription fee, and there's not really anything else to spend money on. You just buy the thing. And Guild Wars 2 is, they had Guild Wars before that, but Guild Wars is their only game. So
Sure.
Theoretically, they should be having a new expansion out this year. Like, that should be the idea.
But perhaps there are bumps in the road, and
they haven't announced it yet, so I mean, I don't know, but that would be the idea. But yeah, so they apparently had, like, Jessica Price, if you remember her, she was the Guild Wars 2 writer who got let go last year after the whole Twitter thing happened because people were telling her how to do her job on Twitter. But she was actually talking on Twitter today about how when she was there, like middle of last year, they did have 2 other unrelated projects that were going, and one of them got canceled. So It sounds like they're trying to do other things and they're not working out, but it's not clear as to why they're not working out.
Yeah, and there's other things that are of smaller scales going on too, right? Like Starbreeze is continuing to struggle with their Walking Dead game that kind of stumbled out the gate. I don't know if it's been confirmed, but I think I read that the console versions of that game are like officially canceled or semi-officially canceled now.
Sony has announced that they are refunding all pre-orders and that they are referring to it as it being canceled for them. But no report from Starbreeze. But if Sony is going ahead and canceling pre-orders and refunding, then that's usually a sign.
Hold on.
Starbreeze has kind of been
pause on that.
Okay.
They've not been great at communication in the last few years, so it wouldn't shock me to see them just kind of like.
Well, they've been going through some like significant restructuring, and yes, as Imran says, indefinitely delayed, I think, is like their official term for it right now. And like as people are mentioning in the chat, unionization is a growing effort. Can somebody remind me what the group was that is a unionization group that actually reached out to game developers at large last week to advocate for unionization? Does anybody remember the acronym for that?
I think it was ACL, right? Or ALC.
No, wasn't there like a specific gaming one?
Yeah, it's beyond Game Workers Unite. It's actually, I think it's bigger than Game Workers.
Yeah,
it's like a group that advocates. But basically the argument was and it came right on the heels of Activision's announcement, advocating that more people, especially stateside, unionize. Yes, the AFL-CIO is the group that reached out.
Okay, sorry. I thought I had
no.
seen it somewhere, and I think I was kind of correct. It sounds like 505 Games says that Overkill's The Walking Dead is not canceled on PS4 or Xbox One. I don't know. It seems like it might not entirely be canceled. It's just been postponed.
Yeah.
It seems like a weird situation, but I don't think it's like 100% canceled everywhere at the moment.
Yeah. Well, and we're just kind of in this weird space right now where Guild Wars 2 largely has a happy customer base. From what I understand, it's not a game I play, but I mean, largely I hear about the community being better than some of what we heard last year when Jessica Price was let go for rightfully telling shitheads to fuck off. And we you see Activision making these record sales and still laying people off. It's just we're in this really rough spot where companies are still being able to make money hand over fist, with the exception of the Guild Wars ArenaNet crew, but we're just not seeing the people who make these games see the results of that. So yeah, I mean, as people have been saying, GDC will be a big time where we start hearing more about unionization. It won't fix everything, but it would stop some of this shit. So
yeah,
hopefully,
and just to throw in here, I did type it in chat, but it's not development, but Future is announced their unionization today, and that's PC Gamer and Games Radar and a few other tech sites like Tom's Guide and stuff. It's like 11 publications. So some people are trying. I mean, there's still games industry, so
right.
It's slow.
It's slow. Yeah, Justin, you're back.
Yes,
awesome.
I am back.
Awesome. We were just talking about ArenaNet and the layoffs happening over at Activision. And then a little bit of context with what's going on over at Overkill's Walking Dead, just kind of the sad state of game development in terms of workers' rights.
Also, I just saw that it seems like an Australian EA studio is just announced a round of layoffs as well.
Wait, who?
Let me get the name. I just saw it, like it just was announced a few minutes ago.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now.
It was EA's Australia studio, right?
Yeah, EA Australia, Fire Monkeys.
Are they a support studio?
They're focused exclusively on mobile development right now.
Do you mind tossing a link in the chat for me, Justin?
Yeah, sure. It's hold on, I brought it up on my phone. It's on Kotaku.au right now.
Okay.
.com/au.au.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like EA's mobile studio that's based in Australia is also being hit by layoffs. Lena just posted the link in our chat.
I think it just really sucks that, like, by most accounts, we keep hearing how gaming as a business and an industry is like better than ever. Like, all these revenues are up, software revenues up, hardware revenues up, but it feels like that success doesn't trickle down to the employees. It feels like it's still as volatile.
Wait a minute.
Are you telling me that economics doesn't work?
Are you saying trickle down economics doesn't work?
Whoa,
that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that
the
money up here doesn't seem to be benefiting the people that are actually generating it.
Who knew that it was going to be our Canadian member that was going to hit us with the wise?
Jeff, Bobby needs a new boat. Are you going to tell Bobby he's not getting a new boat?
And Bobby doesn't want his dates to see people drawing pictures of him online with devil, apparently.
Yeah.
Quote from that article. The Australian chapter of Game Workers Unite said the suspected job losses were equivalent to nearly 10% of the entire Australian game development industry.
Jesus. Huh.
Damn.
Yeah, that's fucked. I guess, I hate to pivot. Like, it's been a rough week for games, which sucks, or at least the game industry, because we just
rough month.
We got a lot of news, but a lot of it's not great news.
Yeah, we've already punched you in the gut. Why not right in the throat next? Does anybody want to talk about we have seen some reviews for Anthem, the long-awaited follow-up new IP from BioWare is I think last I saw sitting around a 64 on Metacritic for people who actually care about that, but generally it seems like reception has not
I think it was up to like a
Great.
67, but still not particularly
Yeah.
strong.
And
Yeah.
I don't want to fearmonger, but like for this discussion, I feel like it's as much about Anthem as it is about BioWare. And I think everyone, even people who aren't interested in Anthem, everyone is very interested to see how this game performs and how BioWare does, because we know a lot of EA studios have struggled recently, and we know BioWare didn't hit out of the park with Andromeda, not entirely through all faults of their own, but
well, and people, sorry to I just wanted to segue real quick from that, is a lot of people blamed Andromeda's faults on the fact that, oh, it's not their A team. Their A team's working on Anthem. Anthem's going to be the true return to BioWare's greatness. And that was what the BioWare fans had been, rallying behind ever since Anthem was first announced and Mass Effect Andromeda first hit its first woes, was that this wasn't the dream BioWare team. And now we're seeing that, like, does that even matter?
Yeah. Well, so we have a couple frames of talking about this in the context of BioWare, right? Like at the Game Awards, they already teased that they're going to be following up with Dragon Age should they not be shut down. And we've already heard EA say that they're hoping for, I think, what was it, like 5.5 million copies by the end of March? I
think it was like 6 million in 6 weeks or something.
5 to 6 million by the end of March, I believe, is their goal.
Yeah. But I think a big part of this conversation and a lot of the reasons this game might stumble out the gate, not just with reviews, but also with sales, would be they had this kind of tumultuous EA Access Origin Access launch, right? Does anybody want to, for people who haven't been following along, does somebody want to explain that release window? I can if nobody else wants.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can anyone explain it?
I can.
Justin can.
So
It's like a
currently,
chart?
okay. So it's actually easier with Anthem than it was with Battlefield 5, because Battlefield 5 had an early access release date for a special edition of the game that was independent of their subscription services. Anthems are okay. So on PC, the game launched basically last Friday. If you have Origin Access Premier, which is EA's $100 subscription service, where you get access to every game that EA releases in a year, and you get a week early access. That is currently only available on PC. Xbox users that have EA's Origin Access, just the regular one, have been able to play it since last week as well, but a 10-hour trial of it.
And that's available for PC as well.
Yes, that's also available on PC for EA Access members that aren't Premier members. On PlayStation, the game's not out till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Their EA Access is currently not on PS4, although they said it's going to another. EA Access is coming to another major platform sometime this year, and they've released 2 FIFA games and upcoming Unravel 2 on Switch, and all EA's mobile games are free to play. So it seems like we might be expecting it on PS4 in the future, but currently that is the state. And on top of, to kind of make things a bit more confusing, there's a very big day one patch that I believe is now live.
It launched last night. Yep.
It launched last night. Okay.
And so sorry.
So a lot of issues like load times, some UI stuff, various performance issues were all covered by this day one patch. BioWare told reviewers this. They didn't tell players this, the specifics. But also, it's like there's a question: is it really a day one patch if you can pay money and play it?
The full game.
Play the full game before that, but also people on some platforms can't do that. Like, it's a really weird, messy situation.
I mean, people have beat the game. Yeah. People have finished the game.
I mean, like this is kind of like if I bought Metro Exodus last Friday and I beat it on Sunday, and then if somebody's like, hey, we're fixing a huge amount of the issues you were having last week, do you want to re-review or re-experience it? Like, no, that ship has sailed. I'll come back. And so but what I found so frustrating about this is the way that if somebody wants to be excited for Anthem, I'm happy for them. I have played it through alpha and through beta, and there's a lot of fun stuff to be had there, but it's not my type of game. But people defend this as, well, the game hasn't released yet, so releasing in this state is acceptable, which it isn't. And like, whose fault is it that the day one patch wasn't ready for the real day one 8 days ago? Is that BioWare? Is that EA? Probably both.
Yeah, it's I feel bad for everybody involved, because I know as a reviewer, I feel like, there's a big question, do I wait for this patch or not? Or do I release these impressions? But like, also, I personally do not have an Xbox or a gaming PC. So like, none of, if I picked up Anthem like tonight at midnight, I would have this patch that is not included. So these reviews might touch on issues that may have been addressed. Well, I feel bad for the developers, because, maybe they had to rush to get this submitted a week early to be able to do, these, early access. Like, it's just kind of a mess all around. And I feel like this isn't the first game that has kind of been negatively affected by these early
Battlefield
releases.
5. Yeah. Battlefield 5 had a huge day one patch that came for the deluxe version's early access period. So it came like 5 days after premiere access people could already play it.
It came a week after Battlefield 5's was even more confusing. I believe the Origin premiere was a week before the deluxe edition early access.
Right.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like, and Imran touched on this in chat a little bit. From what I understand, just from seeing reviews go up and from talking to a couple people I know, there weren't really reviews copies that were sent around early to anyone. Like, I think people who reviewed Anthem, from what I've heard, got it like maybe the day before the EA people got it. Like, not like there wasn't time to do a full review before people had the ability to pay full money for it. It seems
that's
like
pretty standard for this type of game that has like an always online connected server thing.
That's
like,
true, but like,
I don't think a single one of them has launched with reviews.
That's true, but like what he just pointed out is that when a game gets sent around to reviewers early and it has, there's like a day one patch or whatever, there will usually be something in the embargo information that's like a list of things. Hey, these are things that are broken. We're going to fix them with a day one patch. If you don't want to publish a review, right at launch, if you want to wait for the day one patch, this is just what to be aware of. And the reviewer knows this, and then they can say, this was an issue I ran into. However, there's going to be a day one patch.
So this is speculation
in the review.
Sorry, Rad, finish.
But like, it seems almost like, but then the players didn't get this information, and they were paying a full amount of money for this game. So it's almost like this last week has been like a weird beta early review period, but for people who were paying money. Like, it's weird. It's just a weird decision. I don't know who made this weird decision, but maybe it was not a good decision.
Yeah. Jeff, what were you gonna say, buddy?
So I was gonna say, this is speculation, but I feel like the reason that they can usually send those notes to the reviewers is because the game goes gold a month before it's released, and they have a very clear, definite, like, here's what we need to work through, and they can give that list to reviewers. It feels to me like they were just fixing these on the fly after Anthem launched last Friday, and trying to cram as much of these quick fixes into the patch as possible, so they weren't able to like communicate that information ahead of time to people properly, especially to the players. And I guess the second thing is, like, this is all really weird and confusing, and Andromeda was very negatively impacted by the pre-release, like the early access period, because by most people's accounts, regardless of what you think of that game, its weakest part is the first 10 hours, which, funny enough, is what your EA access trial gets you, is the first 10 hours of the game. And by the time that game actually released, it was already a meme. It had been just completely ripped apart somewhat unfairly by the internet. And I don't understand. I mean, there must be people with numbers or stats that see the benefit to selling these deluxe editions. But when you look at the review scores, when you look at the general word of mouth, when you look at the sales performance of something like Andromeda, I don't know how these are benefiting these games. And on top of that, I've also noticed, like, with the deluxe editions of Microsoft games, you lose the specialness and feeling of a game releasing. A lot of times these days, it just feels like everyone's playing a game in different states of release, and then you're just, at some point, you're like, oh, is the game's out now? Like, it's very confusing as a consumer to know when games are out, when they have patches, if they're broken, if they're fixed, if they're ready.
Yeah.
And I think Battlefield 5 suffered from that even more than Anthem is, because like I remember like especially also because EA Access is not available on every platform, and EA Access Premier is also only on a single platform. Like I think that adds just another layer of confusion to it, because like if you wanted to play Battlefield 5 just the standard edition release date on PS4, you were getting it like almost 2 weeks after people on PC were playing it. And it kind of creates this weird thing where, you know, like you don't get that everybody's talking about this game at one time kind of thing. You don't get the sense of everybody's playing through it and kind of discovering things at the same time. It's really strange.
Well, and I think that, I mean, there's two things going on. Well, there's a lot going on with why these things are happening, but I think the core thing is that we are seeing, going all the way back to Mass Effect Andromeda, I think we are just seeing a lot of EA games come into the pipeline and release way too hot. We aren't seeing these games go gold in the weeks advance, and so we see these games just come in with a lot of bugs. And like Justin said, they did release last night a day 1 patch, well, which is really like a day 8 patch for Anthem, which does fix load time on PC, but we are seeing frame rate drops that are sometimes as bad as half the frame rate on PC. So like they're not really fixing all of the issues here. But the other thing is that when we have 8 days for players and critics to be checking out these games, there's a lot of time for feedback. There's a lot of time for reviews, which I think is good and part of a healthy ecosystem of criticism. But then we also see people who, you know, might be vice president executives of game companies decide that, like, hey, why don't we just start an argument about the merits of game journalism? Why don't we just talk about that? And
or that same person using the "hey, this game's not out yet" defense while also touting that they've played the game for 50 hours already.
Right. Well, but what I find so frustrating is that the argument that Mike, and we'll be brief on this because I think it's already been kind of talked to death, but
yeah,
what's so frustrating about it is that Mike was taking a very select subset of his audience who he knows hasn't played the full game, so he can say, well, the full game's not out yet because all of my Xbox followers can only play the first 10 hours, whereas like people on PC is like, guess what, when we do quick play, we've played the last mission already, Mike. Like it just felt I don't know. It just felt like a very opportunistic time to do some dog whistle bullshit to rag on journalists who maybe just gave Crackdown, which has kind of a middling reception, you know, the feedback it got. It just, I don't know. Fuck that. That's all. Fuck that.
Yeah, like there's just like this whole, like the Anthem release has brought up just so many just general issues with reviews, releases, and stuff like that. And I definitely agree with Zach about a lot of EA games are getting pushed out before a few months before they're ready. Because all of them lately have had massive day 1 patches. Except Apex Legends. Apex Legends came out okay compared to a lot of these other games, but like I think they are very they're very concerned about what releases in what like fiscal quarter for their reports, and I think they really need to let some of these games have some extra time, because especially like with a service game that's getting updated at the same time as you're trying to fix stuff, it kind of gets to a point where, hey, these developers are rushing to stay on schedule for the content outline delivery that they have already. Like Anthem, we know is getting, you know, new missions and stuff in March. But, you know, if these developers are also rushing to try to fix issues that are already in the game while trying to stay on target, like you get really rushed content releases. Like Battlefield 5 just had a co-op mode that was added that was touted as one of the initial features at the reveal and is now arriving, you know, 4 months after launch, and is one of the most bare bones, like quickly thrown together modes I think I've ever seen in a AAA release.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, maybe, you know, some of these publishers should kind of start doing like an actual early access period, because especially like a lot of these loot games, you know, have always had a lot of similar complaints right off the bat, and they're not able to actually address them before they have to start rolling out this content, which then makes that content suffer, and they're still not addressing the other issues.
Justin,
Yes.
an actual early access period? Like another game that we know about?
From a large publisher.
What?
One that's very online focused and is probably going to be supported for a long time.
What could that be?
What could that be? Yes. So I guess that's our transition. Am I taking this, or
Zach was trying.
wait,
I saw Zach try.
Zach wants to take it?
No. Well, I can't. I was just gonna say, does anybody? Justin just talked. Does anybody have something they really want to say about Anthem before we move on to talking about Dreams?
Sorry.
I just
Are
wanted to
Dreams
add.
at large? No, you're fine, Reb. I like the transition. It was good.
Sorry, I went on for a long time.
That's all
apologize.
right. No, I just wanted to add one more thing. Like, I think there's a couple interesting things here, but we're mostly focused on the review aspect. So there's like a few questions, right? Like, what do we consider a game launch, and when should a game be reviewed? And I think the thing is, like, no game today is ever finished. No game is completely without bugs. So what's the acceptable state? And there's never going to be a good answer for that. So like the responsibility is not on reviewers to wait for a game to be in the right state. When you put your game out there and let people play it, that should be a state that you're comfortable with it being evaluated. And it's not up to anyone else to wait. If sites want to revisit a year, 2 years later and reevaluate it because they think it's interesting, or people want to read about it and it drives traffic, that's great. But yeah, Anthem, if it's out there and people can pay money and people can play it, and it's not preview program, they're advertising it as early access to the full game, then it's the full game and you should be able to evaluate it as such. So I think, like, to me, that's that argument in a nutshell. That's all I just wanted to add.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen, we all have dreams. Some people want to travel, some people want to fall in love, and some people just want an accessible video game where they can build and create their own ideas and share them with their friends. Justin, can you talk to us about the latter?
Well, have I got a game for you, Zach? Yeah, so I've talked about Dreams quite a bit. I was one of the select few that was in the beta, and I streamed that, which that video is archived on our Twitch and is on YouTube and stuff. I really, really, really liked the beta. I was very, very impressed by it, and I thought it was really, really polished. And it seems like Sony and Media Molecule agreed with me, because Dreams is going to be getting an early access release that is going to... It's a creator early access, so like the beta was a creator beta, it's not going to be including the full single player, but it is going to have all of the tools that were available, updated based off of feedback from the beta. And yeah, I'm really excited. It's going to be limited. It sounds like it's going to be limited by just number of people that buy it per region. They haven't really given too many specifics on that. It's just more than the 20K that were in the beta. Which it's going to be tight to get it in, because it is a $30 release for Dreams, and it is going to get upgraded to the full version when the full game comes out. And they did
And that's
kind of
this spring, right? Like pretty soon, presumably?
Spring is the window they gave for it, but every time they've given a window for something for Dreams, it's been like right at the end. Like, they were saying that 2018 was going to be the beta for like all of 2017 and all of 2018, and it came out like December 20 something.
I mean, if they were going to E3 this year, I would say like you could see them hot dropping a short, you know, you could see them, but since they're not doing that, maybe we'll see it before.
So it seems like this is but I think this will be really good for it, because I think it'll ensure that, you know, there's a lot of stuff in the Dreamverse when, you know, the full game comes out.
Wait.
The Dreamiverse. The Dreamiverse.
Is it called that?
Okay.
Is that what
it's
called?
actually called the Dreamiverse. I am not making that up.
I mean,
Great. Sure.
You know what? It's the kind of dumb thing that sticks with you, and 5 weeks into the game, it won't sound dumb anymore.
it certainly doesn't sound any dumber than anything in Kingdom Hearts.
You're
It
not
does
lying.
sound like a Kingdom Hearts thing.
The Dreamiverse.
Yeah, so yeah, it's cool. I was surprised to see, this from Sony, but I think it's a good game for them to test something like this with.
Yeah, and one thing that we've kind of talked about is that previously Sony has kind of shied away from early access as a feature on their platform, and so this is just kind of another example of Sony kind of stepping out of their kind of familiar place and trying out some new stuff, right?
Yeah, and I thought we saw that. The pricing's interesting too. I know it's early access, but we saw them do that with Ratchet and Clank. I know it's an Insomniac game, but it's published by Sony, right? So, they price that pretty competitively. And I do wonder. I'm not saying Dreams won't be like full MSRP, but launching at $29.99 US, like, early access games always get a price hike for full release. But I'm interested to see if they go with the full price. Not that I think it's like not worth it or it is worth it. I'm not speaking about the quality of the game in any regard. Just you talk about Sony thinking outside the box, and early access is one method of that, and so is alternative pricing methods, especially for games that maybe are more difficult to sell than God of War with fancy graphics at an E3 showcase.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
just love the contrast, and it like completely inadvertent too. Like Sony did not know that EA was going to be doing this weird thing with Anthem, presumably when they were making their plan for Dreams Early Access. But I love the contrast because like the whole weird release schedule for Anthem, they weren't calling it early access, but then kind of like midway through the week, it started getting referred to as early access. So like, it's not
When
like
they need a generous excuse.
yeah, like you think of it, you think of an early access game, you think of, a game that you're getting access to like a month or even like a year or more before launch, and it's going to be buggy and broken probably, and then eventually you're going to get the full game and they're going to fix things, and that you're buying into that. And that was not what people were thinking of when they were buying Anthem. They're buying a full price game that they expect to be functional at the time that they buy it. But then you have Dreams, which is here, take it for cheaper. It's probably not going to work 100% great, but we're going to fix it. And thank you for helping us. Like, it's just, the contrast is funny.
And the wild thing is Justin and I, in fact, it's archived, self-plug. We have some Dreams beta content up, and the game runs real well. Like, it seems fine.
I said that
Like,
during the
instant
stream.
Loads, yeah.
I said that during the stream, like, that beta felt more polished than a lot of full releases that I have played. And considering that this early access is going to be probably polished up even more from that, like, I would say it's a pretty safe bet for throwing money at.
Yeah.
Is Fortnite technically still in early access?
Yeah. It's beta.
Yeah. It's a complete bullshit lie, but yes.
Are you kidding me?
Yo.
Well, okay,
funny
they're
as
just
hell.
extending it. They're just extending it because they said originally that it would be a free-to-play game with their horde mode, and so they know that if they take it out of that early access, they have to give you the horde mode for free. But people are buying the horde mode because it gives you, if my memory serves correctly, V-Bucks, which can translate into the multiplayer component. So they're basically using it to kind of milk some extra sales. But hey, hustle recognize hustle until I guess. Yeah, it's fucked. But yeah, I mean, does anybody else have anything to touch on with Dreams? I know, Finn, do you want to say anything about it?
I've never played it, so
okay. But you have Dreams?
I do.
Thank
God.
God.
To play Dreams eventually.
I just want to remind John that Dreams is a real video game that Justin has played, and also, it's going to be available for early access this year, and other people will be able to buy and play it, and it exists, and it looks amazing.
Unlike Metroid Prime Trilogy for Switch.
Yeah.
Unlike Metroid Prime Trilogy for Switch.
Can we just say that, like, up until like 6 months ago, I think John was like, that game's never coming out, right? Was that?
Yeah, he said it was getting canceled. He said it was getting canceled.
Media Molecule was doing like monthly streams, and he was like, this game's dead.
Oh, we gotta dunk on John more often. I love it. So are we ready to move on past Dreams? I've got more topics for us. Is there anybody? All right, fine. We're moving on. So let's talk a little bit, and I think Maddie, I want to throw it to you. Can we talk about Yakuza in the context of the way they have handled some of their problematic themes in the re-releases and how that might tie into the re-release of Catherine?
Yeah, so I haven't looked too deeply into it because I have not played a Yakuza game like all the way through.
Okay.
I still have to, but from what I've heard, there was a lot of transphobic and I think homophobic content in Yakuza 3, and they're re-releasing it. I think it's only in Japan right now. They haven't announced it for Western release yet.
Not yet.
But they're re-releasing it for the PS4 soon, or they might have already. And it sounds like they either cut that content entirely out or they rewrote it to be not transphobic and homophobic. And it wasn't just oh, we don't want people mad at us. It was like a concerted effort from within the team that like we want to do better. We want to make people who are part of the groups that we previously made probably like said harmful things about. We want them to feel safe playing our game and stuff. Which is in stark contrast to Atlas, who
just decided they were going to show their whole ass, really?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's been known for a while, I guess. But there was transphobic stuff in the original release of Catherine. And Justin can probably speak to this more than I can.
Yeah. So, so just kind of building on kind of a little bit of what, Maddie said about Yakuza, like, a little bit of that stuff, especially inside missions, kind of made it into the Kiwami games. But like a lot of the new stuff, like adds like, kind of fun cross-dressing and stuff like that. So it really seemed at odds. And, I haven't played Yakuza 3 yet, but I have heard a lot of that stuff is kind of at the forefront in Yakuza 3, and I'm glad they're addressing it because, when I ran into some of that stuff in Kiwami, it definitely, it grossed me out. But
yeah,
the Catherine re-release is really, really upsetting. So I'm a big fan of Catherine originally. I thought it was a really neat puzzle horror game. I thought it had some, interesting stuff to say about, about adult relationships, sex, stuff like that. And it's stuff I hadn't really seen in game before. And there was, a trans character. There is a trans character in the game. And she was dead named in the credits. As well as, there were several lines in the game where people were kind of mocking her and stuff like that. But when they announced that there was going to be a remaster of Catherine, I was really hoping, hey, you know what? They could correct some of these issues relatively easily. It seems they have more than tripled down on transphobic content in the remaster. They've added a third Catherine, who, they kind of played with expectations because they released, screenshots of Vincent seeing her naked and screaming and stuff like that, and we're like, oh, but it's not what you guys think. And it turns out, yes, she does have male genitalia, but wait, she's actually an alien, kind of thing. So they tried to like make it better, but still doing the same awful joke that we expected them to make. And then on another level there is now a new best ending of the game. And that best ending, is going back in time, making everybody's lives better. And it makes it so that Erica never transitioned. Erica is the trans character in the game, and it shows them in a biologically male body at the end, kind of implying that they would be better off not transitioning, that they might have just been confused. And this is really, really upsetting for me because I really thought they could have easily addressed the issues that were in the original release of the game. This is a game I really liked. I have recommended to people. I've recommended it to people that are members of the LGBTQ community. And, I've been, side-eyeing this remaster for a while. And as these details came out, it just got me more and more upset because, it would have been so easy to improve it, and
Yeah.
they did not.
And I think one of the things that I find kind of frustrating about it is we've seen and it goes beyond just the examples that you gave, right? But like even looking back at God of War, they kind of talked about which is a game I'm not as warm on as everybody else, but one of the things they talked about was like if we were going to come back and tell more, how do we redeem Kratos? Because there's a lot of extremely problematic content in those first 3 storyline games. And so we've seen a lot of things this generation where people who make games have thought more critically about the characters and the people they're presenting in a way to make a warmer, more inclusive, and just smarter story. And it just feels like Atlas just hasn't done the homework, hasn't read the room, and is instead just leaning into like
and another weird thing about this is both Yakuza and Catherine are published by Sega.
Yeah.
Which is like another kind of bizarre wrench in this is that like with some of their remasters they're doing what they should, and others they are absolutely not.
Well, and there's another layer to this, which is that like this is something that Atlas has a history of screwing up. Like you guys all know I love Persona 5, but like there's some like deeply troubling stuff in that game. There are 2 scenes where your friend Ryuji is accosted by two gay men who are like coded as like pedophiles almost, and they're like very cartoonish, caricaturish. Like they chase him away, and like your character has like kind of like a I hope he's okay reaction, and like you don't hear from him for hours. And weirdly they left that in the anime, and it does nothing for the story. They were originally going to leave in or they were going to put in a social link where you could romance one of your friends, Yusuke. And they cut some of they cut some of the stuff out.
Hang on. Are we back?
It was really.
Yeah, we're good. Sorry.
That was a really
Okay,
solemn thing
we're
to
good.
interrupt, but it was funny because on my screen Jeff was frozen and everyone else was moving, but on the stream everyone was frozen except Jeff.
Yeah, Discord booted
Except
me.
Jeff.
So sorry about that. Continue.
Sorry, Matt. You might want to back.
Okay, yeah. So
walk us back slightly.
basically, Katsura Hoshino, the director and producer of Catherine, he's worked on all the Persona games since 3, and people have kind of thrown out the idea that like this comes from him, but I think that's kind of letting Atlas off the hook a little too easily. It seems like there is a very deeply seated homophobic and transphobic like belief system at Atlas that like really needs to change. And he's not working on Persona 6. He's kind of handed off the series to a different director. So we'll see when.
But he is also heading up another IP, like a new IP for
their fantasy RPG.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that pans out that it's all his fault, or if it's just Atlas as a whole is kind of.
And like on another level that I think makes it kind of extra gross is just like the message of like the Persona games is like find your true self, be who you really are, unless you're a member of the LGBTQ community, like especially it's
5.
really upsetting because it seems like it would be a great series to actually have some progressive elements or to be more caring towards those groups. And Catherine's about understanding who you really are and becoming a better person and like interacting with your relationships better and stuff. Like it's like on top of it just being gross in general, it just really feels completely at odds with what these games are trying to say in a way that I feel like kind of invalidates a lot of the other stories that they're telling within them.
Yeah, the themes at large are very like positive. It's especially weird in Persona 5, which is about like the downtrodden and like people that are taken advantage of, kind of rising up and like getting revenge on, not getting revenge, but like righting the wrongs of society. While at the same time you have An, who was sexually harassed by one of her teachers, and is like, it's implied that there was like sexual assault that happened. And then for the rest of the game, Ryuji is like saying like sexually harassing her, and it's just like completely, and it's played for comedy. It's completely at odds with the larger themes, and it undercuts them, and it's like, it's upsetting because it's like, you guys had something good going here, and then you just like couldn't help yourselves not putting in this like juvenile stuff that like anybody knows you don't put that in there.
And that's the other thing too, is it's not like they have done this just once or twice. It's so frequently they have to take digs at these groups.
Yeah.
And like, especially this Catherine re-release, like, people have made excuses with, previous releases. Like Persona 4 was written, in what, 2008.
Yep.
Catherine was kind of ignorantly insensitive in the original release. And then, time passed, Persona 5 comes out, and people were like, oh, well, that's only like 10 minutes of a 100-hour game. But like, I think the reason it's particularly boiling over with Catherine Full Body is because it just seems so particularly like, it's like, oh, here's a new ending, and most of the new content we're adding to the game is going to deal with this poorly.
It feels like they can't claim ignorance anymore.
Yeah.
More maliciousness. One other thing I'd like to say is Atlas put out today. They do surveys every once in a while, and it's basically just like, oh, what would you like to see from these series? Are you a fan? So I'm gonna drop that in the chat, and I would encourage everybody. This is perfect timing to if you like their games but you don't like the stuff they're doing, I would go in and answer to the other ones, like the things you want to see them do better, because they listen to these surveys. I don't know if they'll listen to that particular one, but if enough people speak up, I'm hoping that it's heard there.
I did see somebody that is kind of familiar with how Atlas works. Is that Atlas USA and the localization teams are very cognizant of some of these criticisms, but Atlas Japan is kind of very much, hey, we listen to Japan, and isn't quite as welcoming to some of these things. And there's been some statements. I think the voice actor for Erica, the voice actor for Erica has said, we are working with the localization team on this, so maybe things will be different in the US release. I'm not sure, but
sure. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that we need to watch. And the Catherine Full Body isn't actually out for a minute in the US, right?
No, it just came out in Japan. They just announced it for the US very recently.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, it's something to watch, and as Imran mentioned, there was some sort of translation issue which might have exacerbated some of the reads on some of the changes. So it's something to keep an eye on as it kind of moves towards a Western release. But let's move on to some other really big news today, and then also the context again in the game industry. Today, after I think 13 years, Reggie is ready to retire. Finn, do you want to talk about this at all?
15, 16 total, 13
15.
13 as in his current role as president,
okay.
But fit like over 15, I think, at
Yeah.
Sorry.
So he's been there. He's been there for quite a long time, and like honestly, it's one of those things, right? Where after he's been there for so long, like as a 23-year-old, like it's weird for me to see him move on, I guess. But I mean, I don't know. I feel good for it. I mean, he's put Nintendo in a good spot. Finn, do you have anything to say about it? We kind of were mentioning it in the DMs earlier. That's why I asked.
Yeah, so the thing about Reggie is, I mean, sure, he's an exec, and like anyone else, he's just there to sell the company and sell units and get people to buy into the company line. And one thing that will be sorely missed is Reggie's superhuman ability to say literally anything with a straight face and make you feel like he truly believes that's the best answer they can give. Because you have to remember, he was around during the Wii U era, and there was some questionable things that he had to just sit there and say. But going back to his initial rise in popularity, it all comes down to that first E3 appearance. I believe it was E3, where he just introduces himself with the most iconic line, like, "My name is Reggie. I'm here. What is it? I'm here to kick ass and make games." I believe that was
Yeah,
the
it was.
quote.
I'm about kicking ass and
Yeah,
or something.
and like
Incredible.
just
Great.
that's simple
Fuck me up,
because
Reggie.
you were this is the guy that's going to be representing Nintendo, and he just said I'm going to kick ass, and you're like, wow, that's not what we expected. And I remember how different it felt because he was coming off of not disastrous, but the first time Nintendo ever lost with the N64 versus PlayStation, he was helming the GameCube era. And you gotta like respect this man who has seen it through some of Nintendo's darkest days, and now he gets to leave on the high note of the Switch
Yeah.
dominating
After
the
the Wii
generation.
U.
Yes,
After the Wii U. What a comeback.
that's what I'm saying. Like it's Nintendo's version of Phil Spencer writing the Xbox One ship. Like it's nice to be there and see that trajectory happen. And he was also a guy that if you ever met him in person, was as genuine as he came off on screen and on stage. He was just a genuine guy that liked what he did. And
like,
I really have high hopes for Doug Bowser because he's another genuinely great guy, but Reggie will be missed. It's going to be a large void to fill.
I think it's also worth noting that it's a huge bummer in the fact that now we're back to all of the major gaming industry corporate figures being white guys again.
Yep.
Like he was he was the diversity. And
Well, yeah, Reggie was the I believe I read today, like first generation son of Haitian immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Which is
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, like, I'm not as familiar with Reggie as most. Not a big Nintendo guy. I didn't really follow them that closely, but one thing that struck out to me from people's reactions to this, but also seeing people talk about Reggie, is we always hear that companies aren't your friend, right? Which is true. Companies, they want to make money, but that doesn't mean that they can't put people out there that are your friend, that are, pleasing to interact with and can have some fun and be a friendly face. And I think, Sony's had some good faces like Shuhei and Adam Boyes and stuff like that, and Microsoft's got Phil Spencer, but I don't think anybody is so intrinsically tied to their brand like Reggie was to Nintendo. When people think of Nintendo in America and they look at Reggie, like, those two go hand in hand, and it was just cool to see like such a humanized representation of the company, and I think that built so much goodwill for Nintendo, and I'm interested to see how they move forward past that in the future.
Yeah. Well, and it's what Finn was saying, where like he's an incredibly personable character. He always has been, but he was also profoundly good at when Nintendo was making laughable decisions about their infrastructure, was so good at selling it. Like, I think the exact line for why they didn't have a party system on the Switch was, because we're Nintendo and we do things differently. We're just like, oh god.
They also made him say it's because they didn't want you working with like a bulky headset and
yeah, like you don't want all those wires and everything.
Which
and then
is
they released
which
this
is like-
Splatoon thing,
Which is just a hilariously awful answer, but Reggie fucking sold it. Like, with Reggie, I'm like, no, you're right. Just my phone is fine, Reggie. This is
I don't
all
need it.
Yeah, he's the master of spin. He's great at it.
I mean, but like, fucking again, respect. Like, I don't know, like, we've kind of talked about Phil Spencer a little bit. But Phil Spencer always reminds me of your dad's friend at a barbecue. In a way, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
He's your dad's friend. But Reggie is like your dad after you just threw up. Like, he's just like kind, like nicer than I maybe deserve. I don't know. Just there's an energy that Reggie brought that I just don't see enough of from executives. And again, like Phil Spencer, whether he comes off as sincere or fake, whatever. I just think that Reggie will leave a pretty big void there. But with a name like Bowser following up, maybe we'll get some more memes out of it. We'll see.
I really do miss the Iwata era Nintendo Directs.
Yeah.
And Reggie was a huge part of those. Like,
just the skits.
I think in general, like the Nintendo executives that were involved in those, like, I mean, when you're a grown ass man, I mean, you gotta have like that childishness and that playfulness to be willing to go along. I mean, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do for your job, but they're all putting those together, and Reggie was a part of that. And you gotta like have that playfulness to be willing to go along with just these ridiculous skits and be self aware enough to know what the internet is doing with them. I mean,
the Reginator.
every so often in a direct, somebody will deliver a line or with like a little smirk, and you know they're like I don't remember what Smash Brothers reveal it was. It might have been Ridley. Actually, I think it was Ridley. It was like the reveal was delivered with this little smirk, like, I know you guys have been just being ridiculous on the internet for like years about this, so you know what, here you go, wink. Like it's that kind of thing. I don't know.
He always wore those pins just to tease people.
Yeah.
Never commented on them.
It's like the t-shirts at the Xbox things.
Oh, the t-shirts. Yeah. Yeah, but like there's besides Nintendo, there was also a big change, and some of this was last week. So Jim Ryan is now pretty high up. Does anybody want to touch on that?
May I just touch on him, because I have feelings about Jim Ryan.
Please.
Finn, before you start, do you want to just contextualize like who Jim Ryan is, and maybe just for people who aren't familiar with the executives?
As I recall, wasn't he the Sony Europe version of Jack Tretton?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's now moving on up to the West Side for America. And you might know him as the guy that has made every single PS4 PR blunder of the past 3 years. Remember all those choice quotes about crossplay? Remember all those choice quotes about backwards compatibility? If it was something Xbox was doing right, Jim Ryan was fucking up the PlayStation response. And it got to the point where I was like, how are they not, if they see a guy with a microphone, not just shooing him away? Because he's becoming PlayStation's Don Matrick, where like every time he opens his mouth, you're like, why? What are you saying? Just stop. And I'm sure he's a great guy. Probably. There's a reason he got promoted, but it's not his savvy with journalists.
So that's actually part of the reason why I think he got promoted, because we don't actually hear much from the PlayStation presidents in talking with the press. Like, Andrew House would maybe have, like, when he was in charge, he would maybe have a couple interviews a year, maybe, where he just stayed directly on message.
Who is Jim Ryan? Who is Jim Ryan replacing? Like, who are we comparing him to?
That's also the weird thing.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yes, Jim Ryan and John Codera have switched places. Jim Ryan was the VP. Codera was the president. As of April 1st, they are switching. Where Ryan is taking over as president. As VP, Codera is going to be continuing on and focusing on PlayStation Network and service-related stuff.
Because that's Codera's background, right?
Yeah, that's Codera's specialty.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have any official reasoning for it. If I had to guess, I would say that maybe Ryan's probably... Okay, Ryan was deputy, not VP, but... but it was just kind of a shifting around of execs in similar roles. I think maybe, this will allow Codera to focus more on the network services thing, and Ryan probably more on the management side. If I had to venture a guess, we don't know for sure, but...
Well, and perhaps I'm ill-informed, but I think one of the things that people always give Jim Ryan for, he was a big part in the spearheading of Sony continuing to dominate the European market, and kind of made it an unpenetrable fortress for the likes of Microsoft, right? And maybe that's giving him too much credit, but I mean, that's a common sentiment that I have heard.
Yeah, it sounds like he's a better businessman than he is a PR person.
And I believe it.
Sure.
That happens a lot in that industry, is that the higher execs are much better at the business side of things. less so on the human interaction part.
Sure.
Which is part of why Reggie was like really interesting.
A breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because like he opened his mouth and we were all like, well, the thing you said as a factual statement might not have been great, but you didn't put your foot in your mouth while you were saying
It's like
it.
Ubisoft's
So,
Eves. Like, he's
Yeah.
also
More
just
so. Yeah.
he's just interested in selling his product, but he comes across as very authentic and charming. And you don't get that a lot in upper execs for these huge global corporations. And Eves pulls it off.
Yeah.
I thought Jeff might like the little
Yeah.
pro Ubisoft.
Yeah.
like I don't know,
He
Ubisoft.
always sounds like mildly apologetic on the earnings
Oh,
calls
yeah.
when I listen to them. Like he's just a little. He's not super sorry, but he's like a little bit sorry that he has to tell you.
Ubisoft's weird. Like they're a big company with like lots of the same problems as the other big companies, but they also have this weird human vibe to them that I think like comes a lot from the. I'm not going to try to pronounce the last name. So Eve's family, and yeah, it sets them apart. I think for a little bit.
Yeah.
Hi, Saki.
Yeah, Finn's got Saki out. So guys, before we wrap up for the night, I just kind of wondered if anybody wanted to talk about or speculate what Reggie's departure and also the change up at PlayStation might mean for the next gen as we kind of look towards that in the next year. Does anybody have any thoughts? Is this a
I
big game
think
changer?
we see Doug Bowser at E3 or in the Direct in a Bowser suit. That is
Wow.
I think that's their only choice.
They'd
I
be
mean,
silly
they-
not to.
They have to lean in.
They
I mean,
have
he's already shown off like the Team Bowser jacket and stuff. Like he knows what he's doing.
Full Bowser suit. I do
mean,
think realistically,
There's not a
I
single
think-
person at Nintendo that didn't know that was coming.
Oh
Like-
God, no. Well, he himself has leaned into it on Twitter
Yeah.
a number of times. I do realistically think. I mean, yeah, they'll do they're doing a direct. Like, there's no way Nintendo will go back to stage presentations at this point. But I do think, like, yeah, they'll probably have another direct between now and then. But E3 really will be Doug. I'm sure he will make some kind of appearance, and I'm very interested to see what he opens with. Like you said earlier, Reggie opened with kicking ass and making video games. Like, what's Doug Bowser doesn't seem like a kicking ass and making video games kind of guy. Derek earlier was Derek was describing him as kind of like a nice, quiet uncle that you appreciate more as you get older. Like not the obnoxious.
Yeah.
He's not the obnoxious
creepy
uncle, and he's not the fun uncle.
He's
but
not the creepy uncle and he's not the
No.
fun uncle, but he's the one that you,
Yeah.
like you said, you grow to appreciate him as you age.
Yeah, and so I'm very curious as to what his debut is going to be, like how he will define himself.
He's just gonna come out and like, I'm also here to kick ass and make games. Gosh darn it, guys, there can be more than one of us.
Justin, do you have any speculation about what this might mean for Sony? Is this going to change any of their posturing going into next gen?
Honestly, it's really hard to say. They've been really quiet about strategy stuff for the past couple years, basically all of last year and so far this year. They have finally started, saying, hey, we're looking, at some more multiplayer and service games. We want to leverage PlayStation Network a bit more recently. But again, it's really tough to say because, we talked about Jim Ryan saying a lot of dumb shit, but a lot of that dumb shit is the old exec tactic of if your competitor has it and you don't,
It's bad.
talk about it like it's bad, kind of thing. I don't think we can really come up with any definitive strategy based off of those because the second, they decide they want it, he'll be like, hey, we listened to the fans and that's what we did. So it's really tough. Really tough to say there. I
Sure.
do hope that, they expand, some of the network services and stuff on PlayStation Network. I think that's an area where they have a lot of room to grow and are facing a lot of competition right now.
Yeah.
Or sorry, go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, so that's it.
No, I was just gonna say, I think they've hinted, people have talked about Sony being quiet lately. We've been seeing some stuff from Days Gone. Lots of the big games came out last year, and I think they've hinted, wait for 2019. Wait to hear from us next year. And nobody really knows if that means games, if that means hardware, if that means services. But I think if we just look at their trajectory since the launch of the PS4, they launched like, we're about indies, we're about the small guy, we're about all these experimental things. And then I feel like that stuff kind of not got rid of, but the focus shifted. And now they've put out big game after big game, these massive AAA, experiences. And I'm sure they want to diversify a little bit. But when you look at what that's done for their position in the market, it's hard to imagine anyone looking at that and being like, well, we need to change course here. So, whether the executives shuffle around or not, I think it's realistic to say that going into next gen, which is probably coming pretty soon, you're probably going to continue to get the same kind of approach to these, this focus on big, large budget, large scale games. Of course, I think they would be moronic to not include some form of backwards compatibility on PS5. I think that...
Oh, it's inevitable.
I think that hand has been forced not just by Microsoft, but by the age of live service games. People playing Siege on PS4 want to be able to play Siege on their PS5.
Honestly, I think publishers might even riot. Like, if, they couldn't continue to sell, PS4 games on the PS5.
Yep. Okay, before we wrap, does anybody have anything else? Okay.
Can we say anything else that will annoy John? Is there anything
left?
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah. Everybody gets one quick jab at John. Finn, do you want to take us off, buddy?
No. I want to make sure it's a good one, please.
Okay. Reb, come on and slam.
No, I was just joking. I would never say anything mean about John.
I just want to say John is one of the nicest, most compassionate people I've ever had the pleasure.
He gives such good hugs.
I mean, all of that is true. And yet it comes at the expense of all of his gaming opinions.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay, yeah.
That's true.
Like, and then that is a fair exchange. However, the next time anyone ever hears John claim that this is the time Metroid Prime Trilogy gets announced, just try really hard not to burst an eye.
Doesn't exist.
From just rolling them back so hard.
I just want to kind of pull back the curtain here and let people know. Every time a direct is about to air, 30 minutes before, John comes to the DMs. He's like, guys, you aren't going to believe what's in this.
He gets real low like that.
Not only is there one Metroid Prime game, not only is there two Metroid, there are going to be 3 Metroid Prime games. And let's just say Animal Crossing is in this one. And that's every
Super NES games on Switch.
And we love the man. And one day he's gonna get these predictions right.
One day, if he says it every single time, like if we keep asking for Mother 3, eventually, one day,
here's the thing.
We will get Mother 3.
Here's the thing. He's every other day of the week. He is a very discerning, like, gentleman when it comes to rumors. Like, he vets it. But the second a direct is on the way, the man goes like it's one of the it's like a cartoon cutaway where it like zooms in on his brain and his brain's like, I'm off work.
Yeah, whenever there's a direct, he has to just start listening to the voice that emanates from the beanie, and he can't stop it. The beanie takes over, and he can't control himself.
Please do just feed John some bullshit. I mean, honestly, just layer it on. Coming from you, he'll believe it too. So he'll be like, guys, you wouldn't believe this insider. We're very close. We go on vacations together. He's been telling me great secrets. Okay, guys, we should go to bed because I'm tired and it's almost Friday. Let's wrap it up. Justin, where can people find you on Twitter, buddy?
You can follow me on Twitter at RoboPlato.
Awesome. Okay, how about you, Jeff? Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at BananaFactory87. And my God, I really need a new handle for my services.
Welcome to hell, buddy. We're all here. Maddie, where can people find you?
At Maddie_Gregoire.
All right, Reb.
At Duck Valentine.
And Finn.
At Nola Nerdcast.
And you can find me at Bear Claw Gaming because I'm forever an 18-year-old and I'm too far. The brand is here and I'm stuck with it.
If it makes you feel any better, Zach, my email I used for so long from high school was a goldennite@hotmail.com. So
good.
Let that one sink in.
Solid. Yeah. Real solid.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody. We will have more content coming out over the next couple weeks. Expect a review for Metro, and maybe some pre-recorded content dropping on Spotify, SoundCloud, that sort of thing. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming and hang out. Have a good weekend. Take care. Good night.